the Human Resources Committee meeting. We have just two short items. The first will be the approval of the minutes from the last meeting on January 19th of this year. Actually, is it the minutes from January 2023? Because the agenda looked like it said 2022 when it on the first slide. Unless anyone has any, I did have one quick set of comments. Pam, at the very end of the summary, I guess when we're talking about the electrician and mechanic career ladders on page 2 of those minutes, there's a very small paragraph, a sentence rather, referring to the electrician ladder adds an apprentice level. And I'm proposing to just delete that because it's covered in the next paragraph, but I'll send those revisions over to you because it's just a duplicative sentence. But other than that one change, does any committee member have any other changes or comments to the approval of the minutes?
I have no objection, and what you're talking about, the moving thing around, is not enough to put it out of sync. So I think we can approve it.
Thank you, Judge. So the minutes will be approved, hearing no objection or comments or questions. The second item is also a very quick item. It relates to the policy set forth in the slide in section A, process A, where in the second sentence, the third sentence, it provides that the annual evaluation should occur following the completion of the MES annual financial audit. And it's my understanding that the financial audit this year is not projected to be completed until after July 1. As of July 1, it starts the beginning of the fiscal year for MES. And as a result, neither Secretary Neal nor myself will be with the board at that time. So the thought was, because Secretary Neal and I and the board had completed the evaluation for the executive director for fiscal year 2022. Actually, Sean, can you correct me if I'm wrong? We actually did the evaluation based on a calendar year? Is that what we did?
No, it is based on fiscal year. It's based on fiscal year.
Okay. So, but we already performed the evaluation. I'm sorry, we did the evaluation. I guess it has not been formally completed at this point. So in order to get the full input from all of the board members who evaluated the executive director, the thought was to allow the full board members who evaluated the executive director to have input into that process. And I guess fundamentally, I just wanted to ask the board members, Judge Smalkin and Mr. Witt, whether they had any concerns with allowing that process to occur. And if so, Sean and I have some proposed language that we can propose, but I just wanted to just fundamentally throw that out to the HR committee members to see what their thoughts were.
Is there anything that is difficult or that otherwise would change anything that we've got already?
Well, the current process that was previously approved by the board calls for the executive director's evaluation to occur after the audit is done. Last year, the audit wasn't done until late in the calendar year, almost 6 months after the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
So this proposal would move that process up. The board members would still have available to them the financial information that is provided each month by Mr. Patel and his group. So there's still, and usually that's fairly accurate of the current status of the financial situation with the agency. So the members of the board would have the opportunity still to rely on a significant amount of financial information in conducting their review of the executive director. And this would allow input as well by Ms. Long and Senator Neal, since they're coming off the board and they have worked with Dr. Glass now for several years and will have a more robust experience with his performance as executive director.
Okay, that sounds perfectly reasonable.
This makes sense to me as well.
Assuming that that is the case, I don't have a slide up here, but this morning Sean and I were exchanging emails with regard to some proposed language that we might add to the policy. And so if I could just read that policy language to you, and actually maybe if I could just send this over to you all on your emails. Let's see if I can just do this. I'm just going to send this over to you as proposed language. We have Bobby. I'm sorry, I'm not too quick here. All right, it's just, I'm not giving you any introduction. I just have the proposed language in here. So let me send that to you. And let me read it to you. Here we go. What the language, and this is not final, we can certainly wordsmith it a little bit more. I don't know if you've gotten it yet, but I will just read it to you now. In the event that board members who evaluated the executive director in any given year will complete their terms prior to the issuance of the MES annual financial audit, then the board may complete the executive director's evaluation prior to the issuance of the MES annual financial audit. Then I'll also add another sentence in here, Sean, which I didn't run by you earlier, adding the board may revise the executive director's evaluation as appropriate following the issuance of the MES annual financial audit. So I think, I don't know whether people receive that language, but what it does is, it retains the requirement that the annual evaluation will occur after the issuance of the MES annual financial audit, which will happen in most of the years, I hope. However, what it does is, in the instance when the evaluating members of the board are signing off from the board or rolling off of the board at that time, it will allow the board to complete the evaluation earlier based on the unaudited financial statements that Mr. Patel would provide and before the issuance of the final audit. And then it also would allow the board in its discretion to revise the evaluation if needed, if there's anything that arises or is identified in the final audit report. So I think that hopefully gives some overall protection to the board to reserve its rights through this process. I don't know, Sean, if you have any thoughts about that last sentence I just added.
I mean, it's certainly appropriate that if new information comes to the board that they did not have when they conducted the evaluation, that they might want to revise the evaluation based on the new information.
Right. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that either.
Apologies, I hadn't forwarded this language to you all earlier. Does anyone have any, if anyone has any wordsmithing changes that they want us to adopt, either let me know now or send me an email, hopefully before our board meeting. So I can, because what we're intending to do is based on the adoption of this proposed change, then we will run it by the board for its approval later this morning.
Sounds fine to me. Anybody else?
I think this makes sense. Let's, I think it's a good idea to run it past the board.
Yeah, I don't think
Well,
there'll be an
we'll have-
objection.
Just send any changes to me if you have any. And Pam, I saw that you had advanced to the next slide. Can we see that? Because it had a schedule. Thank you. Was this from the original schedule that we had set up? Is that what this is from?
No, this is kind of to fill in after your discussion today about what schedule to have for this year. So the May 22nd is well, that was originally supposed to be today. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to update that. The next scheduled HR committee meeting is June 15th, and the next board meeting is June 22nd. So this kind of was laying out what needs to happen before those meetings in order to complete the evaluations before the end of the fiscal year. And so the blanks were dates that would need to be completed or suggested by the committee today.
Right. And the old-fashioned bunch of us are going to still be there at the end of June, so we'll be here to look at it, get it ready.
We'll just
Yeah,
fill in some dates.
I just want to point out that evaluating the executive director at the end of the fiscal year is actually consistent with practice for all other employees of MES who are also evaluated at the end of the fiscal year.
So we'll just fill in the dates, then we'll get back to Pam and formalize some of these dates.
Yes, the dates do not need to be approved by the board as a formal action, only the change to the overall approach in terms of doing the evaluation before the final audit is done. That will need to be approved by the board.
Thank you.
Couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, Pam, is there anything else on the slides that you have other than this second slide here?
No, that's all I have in writing. I think it was just kind of to reiterate it with the timeline that the board or the committee will need to figure out when they want these evaluations to be done and then possibly discuss them at the next HR meeting.
I think we need probably just a formal approval, even though we got the verbal approvals from Judge Smalkin and Mr. Witt. We'll probably need a formal approval of this proposal. So if I could please have a motion to propose, let me just state it formally. If I could please have a motion to present to the Board of Directors this morning to the effect that the executive director evaluation policy will be modified to allow the board to complete the executive director's evaluation prior to the issuance of the MES annual financial audit report in any given year when we have board members who will be leaving the board prior to the issuance of the MES annual financial audit. And also allowing the board to revise the executive director's evaluation as appropriate following the issuance of the MES annual financial audit. So if I can have a motion for approval on those proposed changes, I would appreciate that.
So moved.
And second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
They still are, yes.
And the motion is approved. Thank you, everyone. I think that's it, and that will allow Dr. Glass to proceed with his conference. So hopefully it wasn't too long.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks.
And we'll see you all in a short while. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone in about